Good morning, everyone. Good morning. If you're just joining, please add your name in the chat box and where you're calling in from. My name is Nanna Meyer. I'm an associate professor here at the University of Colorado, Colorado Springs. We are streaming live out of the Grain School Test Kitchen here in the William J. Hibble Sports Performance Center, where hopefully eventually we can do some testing together and recipe work. But on behalf of UCCS and our partners, the Colorado Grain Chain and the Rocky Mountain Farmers Union, we would like to welcome you to this first Grain School online public forum. As usual, we start Grain School with farming. And so our co-host here, Rocky Mountain Farmers Union, has put together an incredible program for us this morning. But before we go there, I would like to acknowledge where we are at and on whose land we are on. So Sean, if you would show my first slide, please. Thank you. It's always important for us to remember where we are and on whose soil we are on and the past. And so when we do acknowledge Indigenous people, it's really important not just to recognize them, but also to celebrate the fact that we are here together and to honor the fact that we can work with Indigenous people and learning from their knowledge. And so this is a quote that comes from my colleagues here at UCCS that I'd like to read. We acknowledge the land's longer history as well as its significance for the Indigenous people who have lived and continue to live here and whose practices and spiritualities were tied to the land and continue to develop in relation to the land. We want to acknowledge that we live, work, learn, and grow on the traditional land of the Ute, Cheyenne, Arapaho, Ikaria, Apache, Pawnee, Kiowa, Osage, and Lakota. We want to honor with gratitude the land and the people who have stewarded both throughout generations. This calls us to commit to continuing to learn how to be better stewards of this land and its cultural heritage. It is also Black History Month, and I'd like to recognize our Black farmers. And this is really important as we're dealing with grains and seeds that are millennia old. Many, many hands of color have touched these seeds, and we want to honor that and celebrate together. If you are interested in identifying your own Indigenous lands, you can go to nativeland.canada to find out. Before we go next, Sean, before we head into Grain School Public Forum, we always acknowledge someone in memoriam who has done an immense amount of work for us and who contributed significantly. And this year, it is Bill Stevenson, former director of Rocky Mountain Farmers Union of the Cooperative Development Center, who passed this summer. And so I just want to express that Bill is here with us today and he will remain with us forever. Thanks, Sean. Next. So Grain School Online is something new. We had a wonderful time connecting many, many years, and actually outside of the realm of the pandemic, we knew that we would want to dive into an online platform to increase the accessibility of Grain School. And so we have done that. And our theme this year is really to take the time with Heritage Grains. It's a good time to study, to go deeper, to learn, to experiment in the kitchen, in your bakeries, to diversify and collaborate and celebrate. And so we've created an academic course with university students and community students throughout the spring semester. And then we organized them in three different themes, anchored with three forums that should raise awareness around the importance of grains along the grain chain, starting with farming, milling, malting, and brewing, going to nutrition and health, and finally focusing on the community, racial justice, sovereignty and policy, as well as hands-on baking and cooking. There's still time. You can still sign up for these 3 dynamic courses or the entire course, and you can visit coloradograinchain.com to do so. With our partners, Colorado Grain Chain and Rocky Mountain Farmers Union, over time, we've really developed a cooperative structure and a value chain in Colorado that is quite unique. And I think it's this rich experience that has been transformative to so many of us, not only to UCCS students, but also to bakers that work together, to home chefs that come and get inspired to revisit their kitchen and their home bread baking. So Grain School is very unique, and hopefully we can transform with these forums and with the courses as many as possible. But we have not given up of in-person learning, and so our Grain School in the field should take care of that. And tentatively now, we have set our Grain School in the field for November 13th to 14th alongside with the Pueblo Food Summit that is coming on, and we will meet in Pueblo, Colorado. So to move on, I would like to express our gratitude to our sponsors. Rocky Mountain Farmers Union and Whole Foods Market have supported the expertise of Grain School. And I'd like to thank here our Grain School faculty that have made a significant effort to come together today, particularly, but also in the course to bring that expertise to you. Our hosts today and co-hosts is the Rocky Mountain Farmers Union with Dan Waldvogel, who is Director of External Affairs for the Rocky Mountain Farmers Union, and Dan Hobbs, who is currently the Director of the Cooperative Development Center for Rocky Mountain Farmers Union. And they together have put a wonderful program together with the expertise of many in the grain chain. But I have to tell you, Grain School would not be anything if it weren't for Sean Svette. Sean and I are partners in crime since actually 2013. First Grain School started in 2016, and Sean currently directs our undergraduate and graduate programs in nutrition and dietetics on campus. And so Sean's face is on here, and you see him in the background. He's always the rock of Grain School and the grain of Grain School. And you will notice him with the gong. And the gong actually means for the speakers that you have 3 minutes to go. If you want to play that gong, Sean, you can.
I'm going to have to just simulate the gong, because I just realized, this is Zoom learning for me, that sharing the sound while I have the slides is not possible, but you will hear the Tibetan singing while gong.
Okay, that sounds great. So thank you very much for the co-hosts here for a wonderful program. And before we get started, next slide, please. I'd like to just recognize Colorado Grain Chain. Colorado Grain Chain came out of Grain School in 2019, and a grain chain and building a grain chain is extremely complex, particularly one of value. A cooperative value chain is complex, and we know that the most significant aspect of it is the relationship building. And many of you online today probably recognize your place in it. And so we wanted to do a poll to find out where you find yourself in it. So if Sean could bring up this poll, we could briefly check where you find yourself. And that will give you a little bit of a dynamic idea of the complexity and the multiple people in the grain chain.